Welcome to the Rusted Garden Homestead. I'm at Freetown Farm. Today we are planting about 15 fruit trees into the youth garden here. And again, I want to continually thank everyone that has donated. This is where the money's going. So I'm going to just talk to you about how do you plant fruit trees. Couple basics. Now, checking online, everything's going to say dig the hole twice as wide as the pot. Use compost, plant your tree. If you can do that, that's great. But when you're putting in 15 trees, digging a hole twice the size is really, really intensive in the way of work. So you can dig the pot about 1 inch wide out from the rim. That will be perfectly fine, 2 inches if you want to. The whole key is a lot of these are dwarf trees. So right here is the rootstock. That's what keeps most of your fruit trees dwarf. Actually, it will keep all your trees dwarf unless you plant over it into the trunk. So the trunk is the normal part of the tree right there. The rootstock is grafted on there. That keeps the tree smaller. But if you bring the soil over here, roots will come out of the trunk and then you're not going to have a dwarf tree anymore. So just keep that in mind. So when you plant, you're planting it right along the surface of the container, about 1 inch out, right along the surface. Below the pot, you're going to loosen the soil 3-4 inches. You can go 6 inches if you want. Throw in a couple handfuls of organic granular fertilizer. Anything will be perfectly fine. Really mix it through. Now, sometimes you might read, don't use any fertilizer. That's sort of a myth. These trees are going in towards the end of September. It's fall. That's when you want to put your fruit trees in. They're not going to grow a lot because the cold weather's coming. You don't want upper growth. You just want the root systems to establish. Adding fertilizer isn't going to do anything to cause a problem. So let's just talk about what a dwarf tree is. So again, the rootstock, here are some examples. You can see really clearly where the roots are grafted to the tree trunk. Again, don't put soil over those, don't mound soil over those. You want to plant them just like that. A typical fruit tree can get anywhere from 25 to 40 feet tall. Semi-dwarf, let's just say somewhere around 20 to 30. A dwarf tree could be anywhere from 10 to 25. It just varies greatly. A lot of what you will do to keep your tree smaller is prune, and we'll talk about that in future videos. I'm still learning about that. But that's the basic setup to plant your fruit trees. You want to do it in the fall. You want to give them a nice long time to sit, 4 months or so, 5 months, let their root systems establish, and then come spring, they're going to get great upper growth and the plant will take off. These are probably 4-year-old trees. I recommend buying 3-year-old, 4-year-old trees with a root ball, not bare root. You can buy those if you want, but this video is about planting trees that have root systems. The whole key is to make sure you put your trees in a place where the soil drains pretty well. You don't want it to be sopping wet where water sits and takes oxygen away from the root system. And you want to keep these moist. You want to water them at least twice a week, depending on your temperatures, just so that the root ball doesn't dry out. Your whole goal for this year is just to get them established. Now, when planting in a garden, the sun comes around this way and it tracks all along there. So we're going to put trees right along this space. I don't know how many. It's a work in progress, so that the shadow predominantly falls this way. We're going to put some trees on the inside of that fence line once we clear it out. We'll be doing a complete transformation of this garden if you want to subscribe and follow. Just all along here, new fencing is coming in, and it'll be back along where you see the existing fence. That will drop some shadow in here, but we're going to put the smaller trees over there. But again, our sun is up over this way, so it will get plenty of sun. The other idea that we're thinking about is extending this part and just making a mini orchard. Spacing wise, you can follow what it says for the tree, but depending on the size of the canopy, you're going to want to grow them anywhere. You can, grow them really closely together if you take care of them. 8 feet, 12 feet, but you're really looking at about 15 feet space in between. You could go further if you want to. It all just depends on what you're growing and how you're growing it. But this is going to become an orchard, fruit area. We have blueberries, figs going in to go along with the rest of the garden for the youth garden. I will show you the process. A couple other tips: you're gonna have deer. The soil that you're putting around it, any kind of potting mix, a mix of your earth, just something you dig out, 50% of that, 50% peat moss. You just want it to be loose going around the root ball. Maybe when you're loosening the earth under the root ball, you throw in a couple handfuls of compost or peat moss or leaf mold, whatever you have. You just want it to be loose, and you want it to be something that holds water. Don't over stress about it. But these trees at 3 years and 4 years are pretty thin. A deer will come in, they may lay on it, they may chew it down, certainly. They can reach up here, pull it down, and it'll devastate your trees. They're expensive. So you can see what happens. This tree's a little bit older. The deer come in, they eat all in here. This one's kind of big, so it didn't get pulled over. This is nice to keep animals from getting to the trunk and pushing it over. Getting something like this, usually the pieces that are 4 feet tall, so they come about to here, and then you just make a big hoop that goes all the way around to about where these are, and that's how you protect your tree for a good year or two. You just want that cage around there so the deer don't come in, eat it, knock it down, lay on it, do whatever they do. Protect your trees, because it's an investment, but once they're established and stronger, you know, the deer can take this off, because you're going to want the canopy to be up higher anyway. The trunk will be strong, be good to go. So in this space we put down 5 trees, and generally speaking, landscaping wise, odd numbers, 5, 3 seem to look you know, better to the eye when you're doing landscaping. So it's 5 trees. These are all apple trees, different varieties, so they pollinate each other. And I will dig a hole and show you how to plant the tree at the end, but it's nothing fancy, just exactly what I said. These were all planted so that the joint where the root ball and the tree trunk meet are above the ground, about 1 inch around the circumference of the container. 2 or 3 handfuls of organic granular fertilizer in the bottom of the hole. Mix that in 4 to 6 inches and just plant the trees in. Again, we're going to be putting protection on here for deer, but this is what it looks like. 5 trees in this new space. Over time, we hope that it canopies across this area and we have a little bit of a tunnel. They are dwarf trees, but you're going to have to prune them to really keep them in check. The hole should look something like this. And you can see there's about that inch going around. Now, when you get your tree, you can gently break up the sides so the roots loosen up. And this is where you would throw in, oh, there's a little snake in there. This is where you would drop in your handful of fertilizer, mix it in. You want it to be nice and loose, and also flatten out the bottom, because you want this to really be sitting flat so there's no gap between the base and underneath the roots. Let's see if we can save that snake. So if you need to, just add in more soil. Nice and flat. Let's drop it in. And that's about, you know, where we want it. And then you would just backfill it. And as you're filling it in, here's a quick tip. Of course, adjust your tree to how you want it. But you want to kind of firm in this area, so you can take the flip side of your shovel and just lightly pack it in as you do that. But you just want to drop the soil in, get your tree set up, water it in, you're good to go. This is great soil. I had no need to add in organic fertilizer. If you want to, go ahead. Nice, quick, easy way to plant your fruit trees. This is the completed space. We dropped in some wooden raised beds, some fire rings. These will get flowers for pollination. Other fruit crops will go in there. Used repurposed fencing that was here at the farm. It's nice and rusted, which makes it hard for the eye to really see, so it doesn't kind of stick out like a sore thumb in your garden. Nice big cylinder around the fruit tree. This will provide a lot of protection. There's no way the deer are going to get in here and harm your plant. You want to plant your trees again in the fall. Let the roots establish. There may not be a lot of upper canopy growth. That's fine. Solid roots over the next 4 or 5 months. Come spring, your trees will take off and you will be on your way to having a nice little orchard in your garden. Thanks for watching, and please check out my seed shop. at therustedgarden.com.